And a very good morning to you. How you doing? It's the 10th of October, 2018. It's a Wednesday morning here in the great city that is Manchester. And again, would you believe it's absolutely glorious outside? It's a pleasure, really, to be out today. I've been out and about quite a bit this morning. It's fantastic. Hi to Susan. How you doing, Susan? And to Russell Scott there. Forgive me now when I lose sight of the names coming in. Good morning, Dan. Because I'm going to be looking at web pages that you won't be able to see, so I won't see the comments coming in. So yeah, all is good here, all is well in my world. I hope the same can be said for you. I wanted to talk just for a few minutes about something that is really personal to me, really, and it has been for years and years and years. And it's this feeling I have that as time goes on, debate and the art of debating things with one another, it's becoming a bit of a lost art. It's dying away. Good morning to Base Ninja there, to Alternative Scope, and to AU Kekovic, Aussie Kekovic. Good morning, yeah. Good stuff. Yeah, the United top, yeah. This triggers people, this Man United top. It shouldn't. They're having such a bad time with it lately. It shouldn't trigger anybody. So they are. But when I was in high school, back in the late 1980s, very early 1990s, I took part in debates regularly. Now, I wasn't a member of the school's debating team. I did dabble with it for a bit, but I wasn't a member of it. But I really liked it. And I used to go and watch debates between my school and other schools on whatever subjects. It could be subjects to do with politics. It could be subjects to do with religious views. It could be anything that teenagers were asked to debate in debating teams. One of the things I was very fascinated about debating and being taught debating as a subject by the teacher whose job it was to teach it at the time, I think it was a man called Derek Casey. He was one of the guys that used to do it, was how often when you were kind of training, because when you were on the debate team, you trained. It was like a sport, so you trained. And one of the things that you were asked to do all the time was to argue positions that you completely disagreed with. And I found this a fascinating concept as a 14, 15-year-old boy, that you would be asked to make a rational argument and a cogent argument for something that you really didn't believe in. And of course, I quickly understood that it was a brilliant concept, brilliant to get you thinking about arguing, and looking for the merits of your opponent's argument, the things you might agree with, trying to understand how your opponent came to conclude what your opponent concluded, and then how you can go about arguing with that and pointing out inconsistencies with it. I thought it was brilliant, Helen is just messaging me there saying she used to love debate in school. And Helen says, the word triggered gets right on my tits, says Helen. Thanks, Helen, there. Good morning, Jackie, who's in Spain on holiday from Australia. Christ, Jackie. Jet set Jackie Crosby there. Good to hear from you. So anyway, I loved it. I loved the concept of it. And I found that those students and pupils who took part in debating societies and joined debating teams were, they were well able to debate their own points of view in real life. They were well able to deal with challenges to their thinking and to their positions on any number of issues. I found it very important anyway. It's one of my regrets, really, doing what I do now and what I went on to do, that I didn't spend more time at it in high school. But I think even rubbing up against it was very helpful to me when I went into commercial radio and I was interviewing politicians and taking phone calls from members of the public who might take a different position to the position that I've taken. So debating is almost dead, I think. And I've been very interested in the last few days. Why is it dead? Well, one of the reasons is, of course, is even when commercial television and radio and national television and radio, even when they host a debate. So you might watch the Kay Burley show on Sky News of an afternoon, And Burley will often have two people on with opposing views about anything. It could be gender politics, it could be politics, it could be anything, it could be parenting, could be anything, any issue at all. But it only lasts about 5 or 6 minutes. And you get a couple of sound bites, and that's all you get. You don't really get to explore what the person is really saying, how they came to form that opinion, and what's the substance to it? How substantive is it? And where did you get this bit of information from or that bit of information from? It's all very quick. Bing, bing, bang, boom, bang, bosh, whatever you want to say. It's over. 6 minutes. And that's the way it is. Now, Tony Barbara says their full discourse is healthy and necessary. Of course it is. One of the things that used to be said to me years ago by none other than David Icke was, if what you think or believe, no matter what it is, if it has any merit, if it has any value, it'll stand up to any scrutiny. And therefore, you shouldn't be afraid of being confronted by somebody who disagrees with it or even is very hostile to it. If it has merit, if it has value, if it's got something going for it, your point of view, well, don't be scared of those who want to confront it and who want to challenge it. But we don't see it. And I've been very interested in the last couple of days since I spoke with the Irish journalist Gemma O'Doherty. Now, I'm looking at web pages now that you can't see, I'm afraid. I'm sorry about that. I am going to rectify that in the near future. Hayden is going to come out and is going to show me how to do all that sort of thing. I don't know how to do it. Now, Alistair McAlpine is a pediatric infectious diseases fellow. He's a pediatric infectious diseases fellow at BC Children's Hospital. So that's British Columbia in Vancouver. And he's a child health advocate. And he made some tweets or was tweeting when I was speaking with Gemma O'Doherty the other day. And those tweets carried on yesterday. In fact, I was tweeting Alistair when I was on air yesterday. In fact, I couldn't carry on the conversation with him because I was in the middle of speaking to Phil Giraldi about Iran and about the Salisbury poisoning thing. So I invited Alistair McAlpine to a debate, to debate me. I'm not a man of medicine. I'm not a doctor, not a biologist. I have no training. I have no qualifications at all when it comes to anything to do with medicine. But I've got very strong opinions about the HPV Gardasil vaccine. I'm not going to bore you with them. You know what my opinions are. You could sum it up very, very briefly. I don't think the families, the girls who claim to be affected or have, who claim that they have had a very serious adverse reaction to the vaccine, I don't believe that they're delusional. I don't believe that they're making it up. I think when you've got one or two isolated claims here and there, you might take it with a pinch of salt. But when you've got thousands, not just in Ireland, but around the world, you've got to take it more seriously. I know that the British medical establishment only this year has been asking very serious questions about Merck and how Merck trialed that particular drug. But not only that, about how Merck won't make available to regulatory authorities, Merck won't make available to them all of the documentation, all the trial notes and documentation and paperwork. And what Merck has given to governments when they have been asked to provide stuff has often been heavily redacted. So my position has always been, I can't disbelieve the families. There are too many of them. There are enough academics and GPs who have openly stated they're very reluctant now to push this vaccine on girls, and increasingly now they want to push it on boys. That's been my opinion. Nowhere in my political, I've never been a politician, nowhere in my broadcasting career have I ever said that I believe that all vaccines are deadly and that I've never said to people, oh, you shouldn't ever take any vaccines. I've always asked questions about the way vaccines are pushed on people, the funding for the organisations who push them heavily, what's going on here in the NHS in the UK. And more than anecdotal evidence. I interviewed Alyssa Nesri, whose child was given 7 or 8 vaccines in a day and died a few days later. There are issues and there are questions, but I've never said to people, don't take vaccines, and I know everything. I don't, but I'm a journalist. And I can smell when something is up. And with the Gardasil vaccine, there's something up. There's no doubt about it. And so I invited this guy, Alistair McAlpine, to debate. And he's been messing around for a couple of days, flirting with me and the possibility of coming on. But he's not going to come on. He put a poll on his Twitter feed asking people, should he come on? And of course, it was immediately filled with people saying, oh, don't go on. Don't be speaking to conspiracy theorists and the independent media. And he's going to shout you down and he's going to dominate the conversation and all that nonsense, which is entirely untrue. So he doesn't want to come on. He's accused me of being bombastic. And he said something staggeringly, breathtakingly arrogant, I think. He said the science is settled. Now, I'm not a scientist. I'm not. I've never, apart from high school, secondary school biology and chemistry, I've never pursued it any further. I certainly didn't do it at 3rd level. So I don't know anything about, that sort of thing. But the idea that science is settled, it's got to be an oxymoron. That is an oxymoronic statement, isn't it? It must be. Surely scientists conclude or reach a position or a finding on a particular subject based on the best evidence they have available to hand today. But surely science and scientists are open-minded to the possibility that other information and other facts may, or may not, but may emerge in the future and give them a moment of pause, give them a moment of reflection, where they say, well, I've got to reevaluate what I believed all along. So saying the science is settled is ridiculous. And also claiming that the GPs and the biologists and the academics who are saying that they're not happy with the safety trialing and the safety testing of Gardasil. And that, we've heard from doctors on this program who believe in the moratorium. That seems like a very fair and reasonable thing to do. While there are question marks about the efficacy and the safety of a drug, it sounds like a reasonable, pretty human, pretty smart thing to do to issue a moratorium. Meaning, if you've never heard the term before, that you suspend the issuing of the vaccine, of that particular vaccine, until you can determine what's really going on with it. And this guy, Alistair McAlpine, whom I have, I would respect him, and if he had come on the program, I would have respected him, but he's not going to come on, said that these doctors and academics are clearly incompetent at their jobs. That's breathtakingly arrogant. They've gone through the same system, more or less, different universities, but pretty much the same system of education. They've done their 5 years. They've done their stint as junior doctors in hospitals and all the rest of it and all the madness that goes with it. Therefore, I'm as much inclined to listen to them, or I'm just as likely to consider what they are saying as I would be to consider what Alistair McAlpine is saying. But he's not going to debate, and this is tragic. And we're seeing this all over the media, not just the mainstream commercial national media, but we're seeing it right across the independent media as well. And it's not been a gradual thing. It's been pretty quick, really. What do you blame? Do you blame Twitter, which has become a platform for he or she who shouts the loudest wins the argument, or he or she with the most followers wins the argument? Because what we see when people ask questions, like me, for example, is that people like McAlpine, who's got about more or less the same amount of followers as I do, but he's associated with other doctors, and some of them well known, some of them not, and they have got thousands and thousands of followers. And what happens is people start piling in. Yeah, I don't care, it doesn't bother me. And tweeting out what they think are facts, sometimes in an abusive manner, not always in an abusive manner. And, well, it generally does descend into silliness and abuse. And that's what you have. That's what constitutes debate now. That's what it is. The debate on all these issues is now happening on Twitter, but it isn't a debate at all. It's basically a race to the bottom. Who can shout the loudest? Who's got the most followers? Wins. And it's rubbish, isn't it? It's rubbish. I said to the guy, look, come on, let's do 35, 40 minutes, not 6 minutes. No, not just him. I'm not picking on him. I've had to say it with other people over the years as well. Come on. And I will explain to you why I believe that the HPV vaccine Gardasil is potentially harmful. Why, at the very least, there needs to be an inquiry, an independent inquiry. And why, at the very least, there needs to be a moratorium on giving it to girls and now boys. Over to you. Why do you think I'm wrong? That's how a debate goes. You can't have debates now. And you increasingly have people who, they like this Twitter sphere where you can tweet out inflammatory things, where you can call people names, where you can call people crackpots, like that guy with the University of Limerick the other day who called Gemma O'Doherty a vile scumbag, rather than identify something specific that Gemma said and then explain why it is that he disagreed with it. It's all too easy to go vile scumbag. And it's devastating for education. It's devastating for information, for informing myself, for informing yourself about what's going on in the world, whether it's about vaccines or anything else. But this is what debate has been reduced to. And it has devastating consequences, I think. Forget democracy. We don't live in a democracy. It's got devastating consequences for humanity and for, I believe, for our psychological well-being. I really do. You know, if what you're saying has merit, if it's logical, if you believe in it, well, then you should never fear it's being questioned, or you should never fear being exposed to another person who thinks, well, I disagree with that, and I'll tell you why I disagree with it. Where this is leading is it's leading to the criminalization of opinions. And we used to talk about the climate change religion and how we might be moving towards a place in time where to deny that climate change is real might be criminalized or outlawed in some fashion. And the BBC recently said the science has settled on that. Therefore, we don't need to provide any balance when we do any programs about climate change. And with the vaccine question, it seems to be going down the same road. It seems that those who will not listen to or entertain the idea that it is possible that some, not all, but some vaccines might not be safe, not only do they not want to listen to that, but they seem to want to completely eliminate from social media, from video sharing platforms, they seem to want to just get rid of that opinion, obliterate it, disappear it, basically. And that's incredibly dangerous, that. But that's where we're going. As for debate, well, on any number of issues in the last few years, I've invited politicians on, some come on. I've invited activists on, activists associated with various parties, sometimes activists associated with environmental groups. Occasionally, but not often, they come on. Usually it's a case of, I'm not coming on to talk to you because you used to speak to right-wing supremacists and white supremacists and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, I did. I used to speak to them, yeah. Not because I agreed with them, but I like to speak to I like to hear every point of view. I like an argument. I like an argument that never descends into stupid name calling and into an emotional meltdown. I like a good, robust argument where you can have a good argument. And at the end of it, you can say, well, thanks for coming on. Not sure I agree with you still, but thanks for putting your point of view across to me today. That's the way it used to be. You know? But I was pretty hard on the independent media last week and on the consumers of the independent media. And I said, look, we as in independent media content creators, we're becoming more and more like those people who want to suppress debate, in terms of we're surrounding ourselves only with the things that we like and that we agree with, which is not healthy. And I was maybe a bit hard on the independent media, but it's coming from official channels, and you can see it right across Facebook and across Twitter. Twitter's a wonderful place because you can just absolutely avoid debating or answering questions. And you can say anything on Twitter. We've seen this today again, and I've seen it last week. Facts don't matter. You know, you make a comment about the safety of vaccines, and somebody says, "Oh, he's David Icke's DJ on David Icke's radio station." It doesn't matter that that's absolute nonsense, and that the person you've tweeted is completely ignoring the couple of salient points you made. It just doesn't matter. That's what Twitter has become. It's a vacuous echo chamber for the galactically moronic, I believe. You know, you're David Icke's DJ. It doesn't matter that I have nothing to do with davidicke.com. Doesn't matter that my radio program has always been produced, edited, and introduced by me, even when David streamed it. It doesn't matter that back in January, I said to David, I'm going to stop streaming it on davidicke.com because it's confusing people, the program, as to who it belongs to and who's responsible for the content on it. And that was fine. And that was back in January. Doesn't matter. People will say stuff that is patently untrue to avoid confronting reasonable questions that are not posed in an inflammatory way. Just doesn't matter. Facts no longer matter. And that's where Twitter is. So it's a terrible thing we're seeing. You know, one of the things I loved about presenting radio programs years ago was that every single day you had a robust debate with somebody. There was always somebody coming on, either a public figure or a member of the public, that wanted to take you on and wanted to do it like an adult. No problem. Absolutely. Come on. That's why when I did the phone-ins, I used to say, if you remember, specifically, if you disagree, ring up. Specifically. You know, I'm not interested in Muppets who call people names and who slander people and scream abuse at them. I'm not interested in that because that's childish and it's like water off a duck's back anyway. But anybody who ever wants to come on the program to make a cogent argument as to why something said by me is wrong, I'll give you a platform. Of course. Absolutely. But it's increasingly difficult to do that in this paradigm. It's next to impossible to get those whom disagree with me or with other content creators to come on. They just won't do it. It's incredible. And find any number of excuses. This excuse, oh, I'm not happy about your past associations. Give me a break, you know. If I was invited on a radio program, I couldn't care less who the presenter used to interview. I couldn't care less if the presenter is a white supremacist. I couldn't care less. If I feel that strongly about it, I'll bring it up on the radio show. Some Labour trade unionist said to me a year ago, oh, you're a fucking anti-Semite, I'm not coming on. You know what I said? I said, if that were true, it would be all the more reason for you to come on, wouldn't it? To try and embarrass me. Why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you come on and go, yeah, look, I'll talk to you about trade unionist stuff, but before that, why are you anti-Semitic? Oh, right, okay. Well, I'm not. Why do you think I am? Let's have a conversation about it. So that's the run and hide mentality. You know, oh, you're a bigot, so I'm not coming on. Covers all manner of sins, that, you know, doesn't it? You're a bigot, or you used to talk to him, or you used to talk to her. Anyway, it's a tragedy. It really is a tragedy. No good can come of it. It really is desperate that we have basically given to a so-called social, it's the most anti-social website in the world, twitter.com, by the way. To call it social media is a misnomer to begin with. The idea that this is where debates happen now, almost exclusively. I know you'll say Facebook, but no, it's almost exclusively now weigh in on, you know, oh, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to say stuff, oh, you're an idiot, and oh, you're an anti-vaxxer, and oh, you're killing people. That's another thing Alistair McAlpine said. He said that anti-vaxxers don't know they're doing it, but they're killing people. That's not a scientific, nor is it an academic statement at all, is it? Asking questions and expressing an opinion has never killed anybody. But this is where we're gone. And I'm lamenting it today. It's a bit depressing, really, isn't it? You know, speaking of debate, there's an interesting story today. It's just emerged this morning that the Supreme Court in the UK has ruled on the gay cake discrimination case. Do you remember that, the gay cake discrimination case? This was where the Christian owners of a bakery refused to bake a cake and to ice it up with a slogan supporting same-sex marriage. Now, the couple who ordered the cake were upset about it and took legal action against this couple. And I'll read you just briefly from the BBC there. The Christian owners of a Northern Ireland bakery have won their appeal in the so-called gay cake discrimination case. I'm on bbc.co.uk. The UK's highest court ruled that Asher's Bakery's refusal to make a cake with a slogan supporting same-sex marriage wasn't discriminatory. The 5 justices on the court were unanimous. The high-profile dispute began 4 years ago when the bakery refused to make a cake with the slogan support gay marriage. Now, Gareth Lee was the would-be customer, and he sued the company for discrimination on the grounds of sexual orientation and political beliefs. Now, Asher's lost the initial case and they lost the appeal. The bakery lost the first time, then it lost the appeal. But today, they won their appeal at the Supreme Court. Now, you see, this is why I love debate. And I might give my old pal, Peter Tatchell, a ring on this. Been speaking to Peter for years about these types of issues. Because I can make a logical argument supporting the owners of the bakery, and I can make a logical argument for the gay couple who wanted the cake baked. Nothing is black and white, you see. And I'd be interested to read the opinion, the written opinion of the Supreme Court as to how they concluded what they concluded. See, all too often these issues they're made very emotional, and you have identitarians, identity politics, you'll have the LGBT lobby screaming on the one side, and you'll have Christians on the other side screaming, when in fact you can make a good argument for both sides of it. You can make an argument that the owners of the bakery are entitled to their beliefs, which I think they are. Whether I agree with them or not, and I don't. Gay marriage is righteous, it's good, absolutely. A same-sex couple should have every right to be married, and for that to be recognized by the law, of course, absolutely. But the couple has a right to think as the couple does. And I could make a pretty robust argument that they had a right to quietly refuse to make the cake. But I could also make an argument that when you run a business, whether it's on a high street or whatever, and you have an opening license, okay, and you've got your pitch, got your shop, and you're running the business, I could make an argument on behalf of the gay couple that you should just ice the cake. That unless they're asking you to put swear words on the cake or something obscene, that really you should keep your opinion in that instance to yourself. I'm not saying self-censor now, but I'm saying live and let live, and accept that the gay couple has every much of a right to their opinion as you do. And just ice the bloody cake, right? And take their money. So I can make an argument both ways. And I'd be happy to make an argument both ways. You know? So what do you really think, Richie? I don't know, is what I really think. If I was the gay couple, I would have been absolutely pissed off that they took the order and then contacted me to say, well, we're not making it. We've decided not to make it. I'd be cheesed off and say, well, why? Why is my business not acceptable? But like I said, I can also make an argument for the couple going, well, we don't believe in same-sex marriage. We don't believe in that at all. So we don't want to put that message on the cake. Not everything is black and white. And that might sound like a stupid mainstream news type story that doesn't mean anything, but it does. In context of what I'm saying today about debate, it does. You can see both sides of every argument. I can see the argument, and I can understand the argument of people who say, that vaccines have done good things in the past. I can listen to that argument. And if I spent a bit of time, looking at it and researching it, I might very well be able to make an argument that historically vaccination has been successful or has been useful. Can see both sides of everything. Not that I will ever agree with constantly adding vaccinations to the schedule. Not that I will ever agree with giving 6 or 7 or 8 vaccines to a baby whose immune system hasn't even developed yet. This toxic chemical crap, putting it into babies, I don't agree with it. My family doctor is in her 90s and would say, let children get measles, let them get the mumps, because when they do, they build an immune system, because their immune system will fight it off and it will make them stronger. So in that sense, I've got a big problem with vaccines, but I'll talk to anybody. I know I'm going around a bit in circles there. But look, I don't want to sound all evangelical about this, and I don't want to sound like I'm holier than thou, because I'm not. I've got as many faults as the next man or woman, but don't hide from debate. I say that to everybody. I say that to those who believe vaccines are healthy, those who believe the HPV vaccine is safe and there's nothing wrong with it. I disagree with you, but I say to you, don't run from confronting somebody who disagrees with you. Don't run from somebody who's got some facts and figures that contradict your facts and figures. Don't make up lies about people. Don't preempt stuff by saying the presenter is a bastard and is going to be rude and angry, when that's never happened on my program, except once when I interviewed, I'm not going to mention his name today. So debate, folks, what you believe, if it stands up to scrutiny, or if it's got value, if it's got merit, it'll stand up to any scrutiny and you shouldn't fear it. Nor should you become aggressive or angry when somebody disagrees with you. Nor should you become hostile and ban people solely because they disagree with you. And I've tried to apply those principles to the Richie Allen Show. I've had many people on who disagree with me. I had a nice, robust exchange with Jim Fetzer last night about Kavanaugh and about Trump and the Clintons and about Nancy Pelosi. No harm in it. Jim didn't go away with his feelings hurt because I argued with him. I didn't go away fed up or pissed off with Jim because he fundamentally disagreed with me. And it was a robust, at times loud exchange. No harm in it. You trust that the audience is clever enough that they listen to both sides of it and then make their own minds up. It's the way it used to be, right? This is what I think. What do you think? Okay, now this is what I think. What do you think? Great. Let the audience make their mind up. And leave your ego at the front fucking door. It doesn't matter. It's not personal when people say to you they disagree with you. When somebody says that they disagree with you, they're not calling you a moron or saying you're stupid. They're just saying, I disagree with you. And this is why. Anyway, so we won't be getting any MD or pediatrician coming on to talk to me or to debate me about the HPV vaccine specifically. Sadly, the door is always open. And we'll wait and see. In the meantime, we'll just keep speaking to the families of people who have been affected by this vaccine and whom are being abused and ridiculed, which is extraordinary. I mean, if you ever needed anything, if you needed one fact, if you needed one irrefutable fact to make you think twice about Gardasil and Merck, it's the way that the girls, particularly in the Republic of Ireland, have been treated. And how their mothers have been called child abusers, how the HSE in Ireland has done everything it can to ridicule and to mock and to marginalise these girls, these children, these late teens. That should be enough of an alarm bell for people to think there's something obviously very wrong here. That's all I'm going to say on that today. Don't know what's happening today in the radio show, except there will be a radio show. I'm working on it. It's on richieallen.co.uk. It's on TuneIn Radio. It's on the Cogent Radio app. Download the Cogent Radio app. It's on triggerwarning.tv as well. And let me just put something to bed, because I've seen some of this lately. Back in January, when I took the program away, when I took it off davidicke.com, it was solely for the reason of transparency, because there always had been, no matter how many times we said that the program was completely edited and produced by myself. It is totally, and always was. And nobody associated with davidicke.com ever asked me to do an interview about this, or to do an interview about that, or to speak to Mrs. X or Mr. Y. Never. But it was a confusing thing. And it was my fault as much as anybody else's, because to give a bit back, I used to say in association with davidicke.com, because many of the issues I was exploring on the program and continue to explore were issues that David Icke and his team have been exploring for years. And it was confusing people. And the funding of the program has always been an issue. It's always been difficult to fund it. And people were basically saying, the last straw for me was a great friend of mine was in Dublin at a talk. And she met some people who said, do you listen to the Richie Allen Show? And she said, yeah, I do. And they said, we like it. And she said, great, do you make a contribution to it, like, £1 a month or whatever? And they said, no, he gets paid by davidicke.com, doesn't he? And that was the final straw for me, right? Because that was never true. David wanted to stream it because he liked it, as Fab Radio streams it because Fab Radio likes it. And Hayden Hewitt streams it because Hayden likes it. But none of them have ever asked me to do anything or to do it a certain way. It's always been me here, where I am now. Well, not where I am now, but in a studio upstairs. And that's the only reason. And yet I still get people saying, when they can't argue with me about something or other, oh, he's David Icke's puppet, or in the case of a woman on Twitter today, he's David Icke's DJ. David has never had a radio station. He tried in vain, sadly, to put he didn't fail. The TV station went on air, but it didn't last very long. But he doesn't own any radio station, and I'm not beholden to any radio station. My show is 100% mine. I produce, edit, and introduce it. Me. Answer to nobody. I never have done. And I never will do. I'll listen to people. You can always say to me, hey, Richie, you should interview this person. And I'll go, yeah, if I can, I will. No problem. But nobody tells me what to do. That's why it's independent radio, you see. Independent radio. Anyway. So that's it really today. Yes, wanted to talk about debate and how it's just been reduced to banality, and how it's been reduced to a couple of one-liners, and how it's been reduced to abuse and name-calling on Twitter. It's just ridiculous. And it's enabled people to cover themselves. And Twitter has enabled people to hide behind it and not confront people who think differently. And you should never be scared of anybody who thinks differently. Ultimately, we're all in it together. In terms of people, as people, we're all in it together, regardless of what we think. The person who lives across the street from you, who thinks that your opinions about false flag terrorism or about vaccines, the person across the street who thinks you're crazy is not your enemy. Never forget that. They are your brother or your sister in this lunatic asylum, in this paradigm. And what the system wants is us to hate that guy over there because he thinks I'm a fucking madman. And I have neighbours who will speak behind my back. Yeah, he's all right, Richie. Yeah, he's fucking mad though, you know. Have you heard that program he does? I don't care that they think that. They're still my neighbours. I'm still going to say, how you doing? Hey, why don't you come over and watch the game with me? Because they're not my enemy, right? And we have to start thinking that, right? You've got to start thinking that. They're not the enemy. The enemy is the system. And the architects of the system, not the guy who disagrees with you, or the guy who thinks there's no merit to your argument. So that's where I'm going to leave it today. Thanks for watching this. The radio show is back at 5 p.m. UK time today. I've not yet determined who's going to be on it, but I'll certainly be there anyway, as you know. So it's richieallen.co.uk. It's Fab Radio 2 in Manchester. And we're on the Cogent Radio app as well. And thanks to the guys at the Truth Seeker app for giving me a shout out. Do download Cogent Radio app. It's great. But the Truth Seeker app is also an amazing thing because it's about, at the last count, there's about 36 various programs. Some of them will be alternative right. Some of them will be far left. Some of them will be mainstream light. Some of them will be mainstream. But they host dozens and dozens, and it's all free stuff. It doesn't cost you anything. They're not asking for anything. So I'll see you at 5 then. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. It is Wednesday. And I'm going to go now and try and put a show together. Thanks for watching this morning. Don't be scared of debating people, folks. Don't be scared of having your opinions challenged by people. Remember, those who disagree with you, they're not the enemy. The enemy is something else entirely. I'll see you later. Bye for now. Bye now. Bye now.